I think really getting into what makes a great client for your business is a really good start place. And then that should inform how you qualify all leads.
Are you ready to level up your sales game? Welcome to OnBD with ALF, the podcast that brings you the best advice and success stories from industry leaders in media and advertising. Each episode, we tackle the challenges of new business to help you elevate your own sales strategy. If you're in business development and looking to sharpen your sales techniques, discover actionable insights, and stay ahead of the competition, you're in the right place. Tune in, subscribe, and get ready to take some notes with OnBD with ALF. Welcome to this episode of OnBD with ALF. And today I am joined by Laura Vipond, Chief Growth Officer at Ogilvy. Welcome, Laura. How are you doing?
Thank you
All
for
right?
having me. Thank you for having me. Hi, Amanda.
Oh, yeah. So today we're going to be talking agency new business, and I'm keen to get straight into it. So first of all, I'd love to know a little bit more about you, Laura. You've had quite a career already, so let's just hear a little bit about your journey to date.
Of course. So I started brand side actually a few years back working at Penguin Publishers in the travel guides marketing team, which I absolutely loved. It was right at the dawn of ebooks, lots of change happening in that sector. So that was a really fun start to my career. And then I made the jump into agency life and straight into a new business role. And never looked back. So yeah, I joined digital and direct agency called Elvis, mainly because I had a great name and some great clients. Cut my teeth working on pictures for the likes of Cadbury and Sky, and yeah, it was a great time. Then I joined leading indie agency Karmarama, which again was another fab agency with a great culture, brilliant people to work with. Had lots of fun there, and then that was acquired by Accenture about halfway through my sort of decade or so there. And that was a real whirlwind as well, working as a kind of not guinea pigs, but yeah, it's one of the first big creative shops that Accenture acquired. So yeah, led growth for wide range of services there, helping to really build their go-to-market offer for Accenture Song. And then now, yeah, like I said, I'm Chief Growth Officer for Ogilvy UK across the whole business. So including newly revamped Ogilvy One and our latest acquisition, New Commercial Arts. So yeah, fantastic business and yeah, lots to get stuck into in terms of growth and new business.
Absolutely. I think what I love about what you've described is you've worked across a lot of different kind of sized agencies with different growth models. Can you talk a little bit more about the difference, the differences between them and how you've had to adapt to those different structures?
Yeah, they've all had really different approaches and models to growth, to be honest, and they've all got their place. It just depends on, yeah, the right approach for the business, and like you said, being able to flex that as the agency evolves. So I always sort of see it as like new business has got three main responsibilities: growth strategy, the marketing, and the pitching. So defining what you want in the pipeline, filling the pipeline, and then closing the pipeline broadly. Um, and those functions can either be done by one person for a really small business, a combination between a very hands-on CEO and a one growth person, or a team of experts who kind of are responsible for various elements across that mix, which is, to be honest, largely dictated by the volume of opportunities going through the business, the resource you have, the business goals, the budgets, all dictate that. So yeah, they've all got their place. It just depends what the shape of that business is and what it needs.
Yeah, exactly. But those those three fundamental things, they're the same regardless of the agency or the size of the team you've got behind you.
Yeah, to be honest, I think the most important thing is just making sure everyone is super clear on those roles and responsibilities and that there's real accountability for growth in the business, whether that's the CEO or the growth lead or the sales team or whoever it is. And when that's working and everything's in step and everyone trusts each other, there is no, in my view, no better role in the industry than in growth. And yeah, when it all comes together, it's yeah, it's great.
Yeah, exactly. Can I just ask, how do you make sure that that happens? How do you make sure that everybody is in line?
Um, so I always spend quite a lot of time at the end of the year doing the new business science part. So all the analysis and looking back and making sure then that we have the right plan in place for the year ahead. And then the team and the resource around it reflects that plan. And then everyone is just made aware of what the plan is. It's circulated through the business. The senior leadership team work on it as well, and it aligns to the overall broader business goals.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Slightly easier said than done, I'd say. Yeah.
It's a common, it's a common thing I hear from agencies a lot that what's the saying? New business is everybody's business.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of can set an agency apart, regardless of size, to be honest. But yeah, I think it's sometimes harder to actually do and get everybody thinking about new business.
Yeah, you're right.
Said.
Yeah, you're right. That although it's important to have someone who is ultimately accountable for growth, everybody is accountable at the same time for new business, and everyone has a role in it. And actually, how you create a new business culture is really important, so that everyone feels like they want to be part of pitches and don't dread one landing. Quite the opposite. You want people to put their hand up and come forward and get stuck in, and that's quite a big. When that doesn't happen, it's really tough to have a positive new business culture. So yeah, I do spend quite a lot of time making sure that pitches are fun and appealing and rewarding, and we win them, so people want to get involved.
Well, that's a key part, isn't it? So, so on that note, I mean, what's the process at the moment? How are you doing new business at Ogilvy?
Yeah, so Ogilvy is classed as a large agency, over 1,000 of us, but we're made up of boutique specialists effectively within it. So um, we have a brilliant team of new biz gurus, all working together across quite a large volume of pitches every year, and across like those different specialisms, so from PR, social, consulting, advertising, CX, and I think yeah, the biggest thing that we really focus on, which I mentioned, is spending that time on the data actually, just to make sure that we're really looking at what works, what doesn't work, and keep refining. So looking at where the leads come from, it all seems kind of like hygiene and basics, but it's amazing how many, I guess, businesses don't do this. But yeah, looking ideally through the year, but definitely at the end of the year when you're planning for the year ahead, where did the leads come from? What's your conversion rate through the different stages of the process? Um, how many pitches could you attribute to lead gen work? Winning trends, losing trends, stuff. How did you do year on year? All of that stuff, so that then you can really build your plan for the year ahead, and then the team around it. Um, and then that prospecting strategy which falls off of it. So who are your dream clients and why are they the right fit for your business? Will there be a market this year? How will you win them? Which is the strategy piece that's so important, defining what you want in that pipeline. And then, yeah, we do what we tell our client. Well, we try to, as much as possible, do what we tell our clients to do, which is build a consistent brand, and feel very privileged to be part of Ogilvy, founded 75 years ago plus now, and we have a really strong, identifiable brand, which does help stay front of mind in the market and be recognisable. And ensuring that you're just clear what makes you different in a oversaturated market. Um, Keep developing new products, services, content, and getting that in front of key decision makers through the year. So it's I guess at Ogilvy, it's a combination of lots of different things that we're doing, but covering those three pillars of what you want in the pipeline, filling the pipeline, and then closing it and winning what's in there.
Yeah. Can I break that down a little bit, starting with what you want in the pipeline? So, you said you look at the data really closely, which makes complete sense, and then you can base a strategy upon that. What are the key things that you are trying to identify there? So I know you said where the leads are coming from, and what are the conversion rates. But for somebody that's maybe looking to build a new business strategy, what are the key bits of data that you'd recommend that they look at?
You could almost start just really with what are the type of brands that you want to be working with, and starting with what do you want to fill the pipeline with. So rather than the usual sweep of like Nike and Apple and the brands like that, is really getting into your qualification criteria. So what when a lead comes in, how do you decide whether or not it's right for your business to go for that opportunity? Because obviously, as we all know, there's a huge investment that comes with pitching. So what are your odds of winning it? Do you have the right resource makeup capabilities to win it and be competitive? Do you know the clients already? Is it the right cultural fit for your business? Is it commercially worth enough? Um, is it a creative opportunity? You know, and all of those things are like different levers within your business that will have different weighting. I mean, broadly, it's the kind of fame, fit, and fortune, or commercial creativity, culture, whatever the illustration is. But I think really getting into what makes a great client for your business is a really good start place, and then that should inform all of your how you qualify all leads, which is the reactive element as well to the business. So stuff that will come through naturally to your agency. Hopefully, you have a lot coming into the hopper. In an ideal world, it's then making sure as a business you're all aligned with like what are the ones that you want to invest in and go for, and why. Um, there's nothing worse than losing a pitch and everyone grumbling, "Oh, we should never have gone for it in the first place." So you kind of align as a team. We went for it for these reasons. It was a good fit for us, and if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. But at least you've done that sort of due diligence up front. Um, and then, yeah, I mean the different data points. I At Ogilvy we try to record as much as possible through the pitch process. So yeah, where it's come from, what it's worth, like UK global shape of the opportunity, um, like what disciplines where it sits, um, who the clients are, where we've got existing connections, lots and lots of points, so that at any point in the year I can quickly see, you know, different percentages of the shape of our pipeline and things like that.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So, and of course, once you really know what the right client is, you should be saying no as well, is
Definitely.
probably a key part of that, isn't it?
Definitely,
Um,
yeah. So again, like, we're tracking our decline rate as well all the time, and looking at why we're declining stuff, whether it's because of conflict, or because of size or the wrong cultural fit. And if you feel like you're ending up having to pass on a lot of opportunities, then it's worth then looking at, well, why as a business are you attracting those type of clients? Um, which speaks to the sort of second pillar, which is your marketing, your lead gen, how you show up externally. That might need looking at then if you're seemingly attracting leads that you can't go for.
yeah, exactly. Okay. So use this data. So you identify who you want in your pipeline. Step two, you got to build your pipeline. So once you know who you want to get in front of, I suppose what would be your best suggestion for actually getting in front of that audience once it's been identified?
Yeah, so that's the kind of the marketing and the lead gen and the proactive element to pitching. And I think converting pitches is always going to be the priority. So what you've already got in the hopper, hitting deadlines, reacting to inbound. I mean, that's rightly the thing to focus on because it's what you've got on the table at the moment. So it's always really hard to get that balance right between reactive and proactive growth. But I mean, the market has never been more competitive. Um, I mean, AAR data always shows us that there are fewer big pitches out there. It's been a funny old time, like pre and post COVID, with the different, like broadly flat to low volume of opportunities. But I think the key thing for me is the size of them as well has been slowly dropping. So it's so important that we're also filling the pipeline and hustling for opportunities. So being proactive in that middle bit. So yeah, I think that's in its simplest form, it's just having a growth strategy and then having the time and the resources to execute it. Um, and that can be anything, like I said, from identifying who the key decision makers are from those businesses, and then ensuring that you are creating outbound relevant content to get in front of them, using your network, existing contacts. Warm leads are always better leads, so making sure that you're mapping existing relationships across the agency. And then, yeah, just like I said, like what we do for our clients. So just taking them almost through that funnel until they are in market, because I guess broadly contracts, CMO tenure, often on a roughly 3-year cycle. So they might not be in market now, but you're sowing the seeds for when they are later down the line. So it's just having a short, like a growth strategy of like different time horizons so that you are making sure you're filling the pipeline at different stages.
It's a long burn, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but you know, I love the aspect of the hustle. You know, you work for a really well-known brand, and you will have brands approaching you and lovely warm leads, but you can't get away from it, can you? Having to do that hustle and go out and do that proactive work. And you've already shared some really good tips there about obviously identifying the right people, looking at the tenure, being committed to the long game, I suppose, using your network, producing all of that great content as well. Can I ask, you don't have to answer this, but from a proactive kind of point of view, what's been your favorite win in your career to date, that you've done from
Oh, good
scratch?
question. Um, yeah, great question. Um, yeah, I do find the ones that those like the long burn ones are most satisfying, and I call it like an asparagus growth strategy. So asparagus takes 3 years to grow from sowing the seed to harvest. So it's really thinking long term about your client portfolio, where you've got sector gaps and how you want to fill them. And often those really, really, really big opportunities are on long contracts, and you have to wait until they are in market. You know, it's unusual to win a huge contract without a level of procurement involvement and things like that. You know, often they will go through a pitch process. So it's quite, I mean, obviously gold standard pitches is you win without having to pitch. Great. Like you can win just through, strong relationships with the buyer. But yeah, definitely being able to sow that seed, follow it through the marketing, the clients attending events that you're putting on. You can see they're reading the thought leadership that you're putting out there. You might pick up smaller briefs first that get a foot in the door, all of that, and that's just so satisfying. And it might take 3 years, but when the pitch comes in, you're already in such a strong position because you've done all that groundwork beforehand, that you go into it really confident. And I think that also makes a huge difference when the team are really confident. That's um yeah, really infectious. So yeah, the yeah, there are definitely a few that have come in that way. Ogilvy has an amazing flagship event every year called Nudge Stock, which is a behavioral science and creativity festival, now in its 13th year. And actually that is a brilliant piece of marketing as well. So it's a kind of anti-conference almost, where bags of fun, get loads of great thinkers from all around the world to come together and talk about behavioural science. And actually, that's a really great little taster of what it's like working with Ogilvy as well. So again, lots of brilliant clients come along to that, and it might be that they've come 2, 3 times before, um, but then they, like I said, they get a feel for the business, what we'd be like to work with, how we think, and we get lots of leads off of that as well. So yeah, it's a combination of lots of different things, I'd say, but um, definitely the asparagus opportunities are the ones that I find most satisfying.
Yeah, they feel the best. Um, well, um, thanks for that, Laura. I was going to ask. So the pitch process is evolving, isn't it? And you've already mentioned the kind of the change that we've had pre-COVID, post-COVID, everything like that. How do you think that clients' actual requirements are changing in the process?
Yeah, it's definitely changing. Of course, AI as well. There's rarely an RFI that comes out without some mention of AI. But yeah, I think, and there's lots have been talked about already about changing pressures on the CMO and spanning responsibilities to now include, MarTech and data and a whole host of things. So plus, you know, waning budgets or greater need to show effectiveness, deliver more faster, all of that. So I think that pressure is then being extended to agencies for sure, and I guess it has been for a few years. So I think the big shift that I've definitely seen is onto marketing operations. So I think gone are the days when the account person would chuck in a couple of like ways of working slides to the end of a pitch deck that you never even get to because you run out of time. Now that ways of working, the operational structure, how we set ourselves up, can account for as much as the creative idea itself in the scoring criteria. So the now clients and procurement want to see exactly how we would do it, not just so the how, not just the what, how we put it all together, how we've done it before, how we would structure ourselves, how we would deliver against that scope. Particularly when you have those really complicated pitches where it's multi-market portfolio businesses requiring lots of different teams in lots of different places. So I mean, it's right that they kind of need the reassurance to see how we would do it. But I definitely think that's been, yeah, a huge shift. So pitch responses now can be as operational as they are creative, depending on what our client needs, which I think is why it's so important to really interrogate briefs early when they come in, to really understand what exactly is that client looking for, what are they to looking for from the process, regardless almost of what they want to buy in at the end goal. What do they need to see in order for that agency to win? And also when they are really, really what's the word? Yeah, complex and operational, it's so much work needs to go into those opportunities. It's really making sure that they're aware of what they're going to get back and yeah, and how they're going to be evaluated.
Do you think agencies are missing out on wins because they're not taking that part as seriously and still kind of pitching mainly just on the idea?
Yeah, it's really tough because you might get the main decision maker is really excited by seeing the creative work, which is common, it's like this the exciting bit in a pitch. But then you have actually a quite powerful procurement team that come in afterwards and they want to see all of the marketing operations piece. And if that hasn't been done to the level of detail they need, you're not going to win it. So that's why I think, yeah, it goes back to really, really understanding what the expectation is at the outset of the pitch. What shape pitch is this going to be? What's your pitch strategy? What's going to win it? Um, so yeah, there is definitely an element of that. Um, and I think maybe a kind of more macro level with more consolidation pitches, global pitches, creative plus media plus production plus AI. They are really complicated, and I get why clients need to see the rigor and the operational nous around it to make sure all fits together. So I think we'll probably see more and more of that, to be honest. So it's just getting the creative firepower with the kind of operational rigor balance right, and fitting that all into like a 90-minute pitch.
Yeah.
It's tough.
There's a stat that I look at every year that I notice goes up and up and up, and that is the volume of people that are actually involved in decision making in a business for anything. Because back in the day, you'd be looking at 1 to 2 individuals, and I think it's now as high as 7 or 8. People are actually making that ultimate decision, and what you've just described there kind of it describes that shift, because you've got to please various different audiences, haven't you, during the process. And I suppose you've got to adapt that in not only the pitch itself, but probably the whole process leading up to it as well, because all of those people in the room are looking for something different and have a different need for their business. It's quite interesting the way that you described it there, trying to please everybody in the room and having to cover all of that. Well, talking about pitches as well, and the process, I wanted to also bring up the positive pitch pledge as well. So tell us what that is. Or let's start from the beginning. What is the positive pitch pledge, and why is it important?
So I've been lucky enough to sit on the IPA's New Business and Marketing group for many years now, and so I was lucky enough to be part of the team that worked on the pledge when we launched it 3 years ago. And I mean, there's so much, isn't there, in the trade press about pitching and why it's broken, and what we can all be trying to do to make it better. And it came out of that, basically. So it's a joint initiative with the IPA and ISBA, representing the client community and the agency community. And basically, it just seeks to improve the behaviours of agencies and advertisers around pitching for the benefit of people, the planet, and profit. So basically, that's looking at improving mental health around pitching. There's obviously a huge crisis in that, and burnout is so common, and pitching does require blood, sweat, and tears to go into it to win. Like I said, it's so super competitive at the moment, and it's how do we look after our people? How do we cause less wastage as well? So again, agencies often will literally throw the kitchen sink at a pitch, and pitch ideas very rarely get made, right? Like they're often, once you win it, it evolves and something very different often comes out the other side. And then reduce overall costs. So like I said before, pitching is a big investment for agencies, particularly those really big, complex ones, huge investment. And sometimes pitches can take like 18 months to close. So it's just really being transparent about what goes into a pitch and whether a pitch is absolutely necessary, whether it's a proportionate process that reflects what the prize is, and making sure kind of getting rid of some behaviours that crept in around COVID, around lots like ghosting as well, which is awful. You pitch and you just never get a result, never hear any more from that client. So it's about educating and informing, and trying to make the pitch process better for everybody. So yeah, launched 3 years ago. I think it's a great commitment to the industry from the IPA. And obviously, I think nearly all IPA member agencies sign up to it. And definitely needs more brand side marketers, client side marketers to sign up to it too. But I think it's about setting the right foundations for future relationships. So the pitching is just the first step in a multi-year relationship. Some of Ogilvy's clients are like 60 odd years long now. So I think the pitch should reflect those shared values, the right foundations for a good, healthy, long-term relationship. So that's the pledge is about getting those right in the early days of a relationship. So if you get the pitch right, that'll put you in good stead, hopefully, to a 60+ year long client agency relationship.
Exactly. So what should brands and agencies be doing to kind of get involved within that?
I think the first thing is just to have a really good read of the pledge. Um, so it's just Google it, like it's online, it's pitchpositivepledge.co.uk. But I think yeah, the reading through in detail what's advised of what makes a great pitch, what best in class looks like, is really important, because actually I think what we're seeing is people sign it and maybe then are not using it. So I think read it, sign it, and then use the pledge. So often I found that it's a great tool for a new business person to have if they need to push back on unreasonable demands. And more often than not, I think clients just don't clock that asking to meet an agency at 9 a.m. on Monday morning for a pitch will require that business to be in over the weekend working on it, or the day after half term will mean they have to give up their school holidays, or whatever it is. I think half the time it's not the intent for that brand to be making those demands. So it's really important that the pledge can be used to just say, oh, actually, this is what we stick to as a business. Our clients come first, always, and it allows us to then share what best practice looks like, so that um, that can hopefully inform the client's pitch process as well. So yeah, I think I found it really informative, really useful as a practical tool, and yeah, I hope more growth leaders can start using it if they ever need to help inform a pitch process too, when it's early enough to do so.
Yeah, exactly. So, it sounds on the brand side that it's a bit of an education piece as well, isn't it? Like you said. And have there been any examples when you've been able to use that and the brand's been really responsive and understanding to what new business is actually what goes into it for an agency?
Absolutely. Yeah, I use it all the time, and I know the other new business people within the IPA group use it a lot as well. So often, if you're given crazy deadlines, so turning something around in 48 hours, that will mean taking people off client business to work on something in order to deliver those deadlines. So almost letting them know that, just so you know, if you've asked us to deliver something on a Monday morning and you're only asking us late on a Thursday, it will mean us having to compromise somewhere else in the business, or yeah, just letting them know what the implications of that are, I think are really powerful. And often they'll be hugely apologetic, didn't realise, thought that was normal, and can shuffle deadlines around to accommodate that. Um, Obviously not always, but I think it is just an education job half the time. Um, I'm also really passionate about not pitching for something unless you know what the prize is. It stuns me how often businesses will pile into a pitch without having any idea about what they're going to win. So I'm not ever afraid to ask what the value of the opportunity is. Is it a roster appointment? Is it retained relationship? How long's the contract for? All of that stuff is part of how we qualify opportunities. Um, so I think that all forms the picture overall about how you decide whether or not to go for something. And again, like using the pledge as a way to help inform that process has got quite good guardrails within it. So yeah, I do use it a lot. And I think, again, often marketers won't have run a lot of pitches in their career, particularly if they've got really long-standing relationships with agencies. They shouldn't hopefully need to do too many of them. And so sometimes big opportunities come in and it's being run by people who've never run a pitch before. So yeah, like I said, it's a useful tool to help educate on what best in class looks like.
Exactly. And where can people find the details of that pledge again?
So there's a website which is just pitchpositivepledge.co.uk, and you should be able to find it from the ISBA and IPA websites as well.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. And it sounds like that for you has been a good part of that qualification process and deciding what you're going to put in your pipeline. So we've had a good chat about what to put in your pipeline and touched on how to go and fill your pipeline. I will leave you shortly so you can go and close your pipeline. But first of all, I've got some quick fire questions for you, Laura. I say quick fire. This is never quick fire, but I've got some questions I want to ask you. So, what's your favourite thing about business development, about new business?
Winning. I'm competitive, but it's definitely the best bit, isn't it? Winning. Especially after those asparagus opportunities that take a long time to come in and pitch and close. Yeah, there's nothing better than everybody working super hard on something they're really passionate about, and then you get the call from the client, when you've been told you've won it. We actually had a win last year where the clients all came to the office as a surprise to tell us that we'd won it outside, and it was like the nicest thing ever. That never happens. It's usually a kind of dull, protracted procurement negotiation, and yeah, this wasn't like that. It was great. They all showed up with a kind of congrats thing outside the office. So yeah, that was fab.
I love that, particularly with what you were saying about the whole positive pledge and the behavioural aspect. For a client to make the effort to do that sounds great. So I can see why that would have made it even more elating. So, okay, next question. In your opinion, what is nobody talking about right now when it comes to agency new business?
The buyer's experience, the client experience. I think there's lots and lots of noise in the trade press around how agencies feel about pitching, but I do think the voice that we're missing is brand side marketers, and I'd love to get their view much more. So it's a more equal dialogue, I guess.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, a very good point. Thinking about your career, so if you could go back to your past self when you were just starting out in new business, coming away from publishing, what would be the one piece of advice that you'd give yourself?
So it's never too early to start building your network. And I run co-founded a women's network 10 years ago, incredibly, with Wackle and Nabs, and it's all about community and a peer network. And I've just seen a real value in that as we've all kind of progressed through our careers over the years. And it's a mix of brand side, agency side, media side, leaders all coming together. And I think that spending more time early on in my career, making sure that I didn't leave an event without speaking to somebody and building some connections, um, I think is just a great piece of advice, because I'd go to loads of talks and conferences and things like that, and you'd come and listen and learn, and you could leave without speaking to anybody. And I just think striking up a conversation, even though it's often excruciating, but striking up a conversation with somebody sitting next to you can be really valuable, and you don't know where that might go. So, yeah, I think making more of all of the industry stuff I did super early in my career is probably maybe one thing I'd do differently. But yeah, I think for anyone starting out, making sure that you're investing in your own network, because it becomes one of your most valuable assets later in your career.
That makes complete sense. Sometimes it's just the confidence, isn't it, early on to do that. Um, but that's a great piece of advice. So my next one is, I know you will have met a lot of people in new business as well throughout your career. And one question I'd love to ask, we did a whole podcast on this, is what do you think makes a good salesperson or a good new business person great? What's the thing that stands those two people apart?
Um, Great question. I think having bags of EQ, emotional intelligence, is often the new business person in the room who will have really, really, really listened to what the client is really asking for. They can read between the lines of the brief, and they can really like listen out and hear for what that client agenda really is. Um, so I think, yeah, having lots of EQ, I think that also makes for a good team leader. So you can build and cast high performing teams and make sure that you're getting brilliant work out of that team to help win the pitch. So yeah, I think those two things, really understanding the client and then making sure that you're getting some great work out of the team, two things together, I think makes for a great e-business person.
Yeah. Is that something you can learn, or do you think that's just something, a quality that's kind of a natural thing for a
I think
person?
you can learn it. I think you can learn it. Yeah, it's just really tuning into the client, like the buyer, because often you've got a team of people who are the ones presenting and trying to learn scripts and what the next slide's going to be and things like that. And they, which is right, they need because they're presenting. And so sometimes they're just not really like listening, or they're not observing what the client's reactions are to things. Um, and yeah, so I think you can learn it for sure. It's just really tuning into it, and the same with building teams. It's just understanding people, that emotional intelligence to work out culturally, like, will these people get on? Are they gonna get the best work out of each other? And, you know, what are the different team dynamics here? And energy levels and all of that stuff. I think you can kind of focus on and hone and craft. But yeah, it's a big chunk of what I do actually is and what the team do is getting the most out of pitch teams.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's great. That's a whole topic in itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. And my final question for you, Laura, if your career was a movie, blockbuster movie, what would be its title?
This is a tricky question, but because it's on repeat, my toddler seems to be watching it every day. Uh, Moana 2, which is basically a story about creative problem solving, which is really what pitches are. You get given a tricky brief and you need to use creativity to answer it. Um, and building diverse teams. So bringing together lots of different people, lots of different skill sets, to help win opportunity, sail the ship, whatever the metaphor is from Moana. But yeah, something to do with Moana.
I love that, with a bit of an emotional intelligence demigod in there or
Yeah,
something going on.
exactly.
Got it. Love that. Oh, the songs are filling in my head already. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today, Laura. We've covered loads. And yeah, really, really brilliant. And I think in particular, just focusing on those three fundamentals that you said, and like you said, any agency size, any business, those three core areas of decide who is right for your pipeline, go and fill it up and close it, which again is a whole nother topic in its own right. But really enjoyed today. So thank you so much for joining on BD with Alf.
Thank you, Amanda.
And that's a wrap.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your colleagues and friends. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next month with more expert advice and success stories. See you next time.